Oh, my chest is exploding!
Can I talk to you? Who, Miley or him?
Oh man, Dino, look at this crap right here. Shows today are so bad. Remember back in the 90s when we used to have Seinfeld and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Pokemon and all those shows, Dino?
Shut up, Kevin. This is my favorite commercial. Asshole.
Hey, you! You want to know what rhymes with women's rights? Sandwich! But if you're tired of having your little girl make you sandwiches day after day, how about a little something more?
The Easy Bake Oven. Brownies, cake, and so much more.
Fast.
Get my daughter an Easy Bake Oven, for Christ's sake.
Woman, please.
The Easy Bake Oven. Teach your women their place since 1963.
God, Dino, do you see that? It's a wizard.
Indigo. Indigo. You should be careful what you wish for. You might just get it.
Dino, what's he talking about? Dino?
Shit, I don't know. I'm a goddamn Furby. Ask the wizard, you asshole.
Say hello to my magical powder. Welcome to the 90s.
Get that voodoo magic on my face.
Where am I? Is that MC Hammer?
Can't touch that.
Wow, Dino, did you see that? That was MC Hammer. Whoa, Dino's turned into a wolf man!
In the early 90s, a new form of music was developing in Seattle. A passionate and aggressive combination of metal and alternative, the style called grunge was forefronted by huge names such as Nirvana and the Butthole Surfers. Before Kurt Cobain of Nirvana died in 1994, he enjoyed international fame, but grunge didn't die with him. David Grohl, the drummer of Nirvana, actually went on to become the frontman for Foo Fighters, a band that is still wildly popular today.
The 90s saw its fair share of pop groups, from the beloved NSYNC to the super despised Backstreet Boys, all the way to New Kids on the Block. But it wasn't only boy bands. Girls in music started taking a more prominent role in the super sexy Spice Girls and Britney Spears before she went crazy. Along with the Beastie Boys, Vanilla Ice was one of the first prominent white rappers of the 90s. But, like all white people, he stole his stuff. He gypped his first major hit, Ice Ice Baby, from Queen's Under Pressure. Up until the 90s, rap was off the pop culture radar, but unlike their cheesy white counterparts, the legitimate black rappers of the East and West Coast like Tupac, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Biggie Smalls, and NWA put rap on the map and made it one of the most popular forms of music today.
In 1991, Michael Jordan won his first NBA championship.
Hey, baby cakes.
While women's rights have been an issue for a long time, in the 90s women began to take a more prominent role in society than they ever had before, especially in jobs that had usually been seen as man's jobs. Seen here is a woman anchor. Now, while she might have only been hired for her sex appeal, women with big assets had a lot to offer for the ratings.
Elected in 1988, George H.W. Bush served as president until 1992. Some of the major events in his presidency include the Gulf War, which America won in almost a week. After the Gulf War, his approval ratings were almost 80%. However, his approval ratings quickly went down after because of a large budget deficit and a recession in which he had to raise taxes, which went against his campaign promises. In 1992, George Bush still seemed like he would win the presidency, but Ross Perot entered the race and stole votes from him, so Clinton won. Clinton's presidency was marred by some scandals, such as the Monica Lewinsky scandal, but regardless of that, he was still able to maintain an overall high approval rating, up to 68%, because during his presidency, America experienced the longest period of economic growth in its history, as well as a budget surplus.
And the jury finds O.J. Simpson not guilty.
Compared to previous decades, the 90s were a time of better race relations, but these race relations were still pretty bad. Occurrences like the O.J. Simpson trial, after he brutally murdered his white wife, and was acquitted, led to controversy. Another incident was when Rodney King was brutally beaten by LA police, sparking riots after these policemen were found innocent.
By the early 1990s, Iraq and its dictator Saddam Hussein had amassed a huge international debt by fighting a long and bloody war with Iran. In a desperate attempt to find money, Saddam invaded his tiny neighbor to the south, the oil-rich Kuwait. America and its allies in the United Nations stood together to fight off Saddam's unprovoked aggression. Reagan's huge military spending in the 80s paid off because Saddam was forced out of Kuwait and the war was won in less than a week.
The 90s saw a rise in black presence on TV. For example, Will Smith played a popular role in the TV show Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Originally airing in '89, The Simpsons was another popular show in the 90s. It was one of the first animated shows since Flintstones that would actually appeal to the common adults. South Park was another popular cartoon in the 90s, as well as Family Guy, despite getting canceled twice.
Hello, Newman. What gives?
I was speaking earlier with Kramer, and he mentioned something about a private jet.
The show Seinfeld was one of the most popular in the 90s. It featured a group of friends who just went through their everyday life. Friends was also a very popular show that was based on a similar concept. In the 1990s, Japanese animation became mainstream on American television. Shows such as Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, and Pokemon were among the favorites of children.
And you sent her 2 photographs of the cell phones. And you say that that's what she paid for.
In the 1990s, courtroom dramas such as Judge Judy were also very popular.
The reason your husband is not here. What's your first name?
Developing from early talk shows and tabloids like Phil Donahue and The Oprah Winfrey Show, Jerry Springer is an example of trash TV that developed in the 90s.
Some famous movies in the 90s include Schindler's List, Goodfellas, Saving Private Ryan, Pulp Fiction, The Silence of the Lambs, Fargo, Unforgiven, Shawshank Redemption, Malcolm X, American Beauty, Dances with Wolves, Forrest Gump, Titanic, Braveheart, The Usual Suspects, The Sixth Sense, Reservoir Dogs, Boys in the Hood, JFK, Toy Story, The Piano, Nightmare Before Christmas, Jurassic Park, The Matrix, The Big Lebowski, The English Patient, LA Confidential, Fight Club, Scream, Beauty and the Beast, Philadelphia, Thelma and Louise, Casino, The Lion King, American History X, Babe, Edward Scissorhands, A Few Good Men, Jerry Maguire, and Clerks.
In 1992, Michael Jordan won his second NBA championship.
Other sports like foosball and blacketball maintained popularity in the 90s. Baseball was the sport of the time. The 90s ushered in the steroid era of baseball, where players like Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire were hitting upwards of 60 home runs a year.
In 1993, Michael Jordan won his third NBA championship.